Okay, real quick, I'm going to go through this Jit-Ogre stuff, installation and basic usage. We're going to get the folder here, and there's a few things we have to do. We have to put the framework into hard drive library frameworks. So we drag Ogre framework there. Then we want to find our Max 5 application folder, which should be in applications, and Max 5, and we're going to put the Ogre folder inside there, which is right here. Drag that in there. Then we're going to install our external and the help file, just like any other external. I have a folder called third party where that goes, and if you need the CG framework, if it's not there, that goes in the library frameworks folder as well. Alright, oh, and this stupid icon can go in there too. Okay, launch Max. We turn on our renderer, and by default the mesh file attribute is this zombie mesh, so it shows up there. There's a handle in there so that you can move them around. So okay, there's our zombie. We have these behaviors. Let's look at animation. We hit this button here to get the list of animations. They show up over here. You can select one, and then you set the weight on it, and you send this message: enable that animation name, that weight. As you slide the weight down, it stops affecting the mesh. Alright, so a new feature now is there's this cumulative blend mode, which when you're blending multiple animations, it allows you to, instead of averaging them, they'll just add together, but when it's a single animation, you can actually increase this past one, which makes them sort of freak out. Alright, that's that. These other things are pretty self-explanatory. We're going to look at another behavior, and then we're going to come back to this blend mask behavior. So let's just disable the animation. So here we go, manual bone behavior. This means that we can manually adjust the different bones of the skeleton. So we say get bone list, and we take something like left hip. There's a little feature here in the help patch that gives you a handle and a sort of visualization of where the bone is with this little red ball. So if you just scale that up, you get an idea of where the bone is. So this is the left hip. We can take it and rotate it. We can take the, let's say, right, I don't know, whatever, right shoulder, and rotate that. Okay, so then you can say disable, and he'll go back. Alright, so now the thing you can do that's really cool, that is new, is do these manual bone transforms with an animation. So what you can do is enable an animation. So we'll just do this walk again, set it on, and what we can put on is a mask for this animation for a specific bone. So we say the animation that we want to mask, which is walk 2, then we say the bone that we want, which is any one of these, but let's do left shoulder, or was it right shoulder? I don't remember. And then you send 0 if you don't want this animation to affect that bone. which means that bone is completely affected by the manual control. So here we have right shoulder again, and I can control it, and he's not going to be affected by the animation. Now, if this is turned on, like the default behavior, this is what happens when you have manual control. It starts doing weird stuff. But if you put the weight down to 0, then you have the ability to control this bone, or joint, or whatever you want to call it, while the animation is running. Alright, so then if you don't want it to happen anymore, you can destroy it with this destroy blend mask. And then if we want to not have that bone freak out like that, we can do something like disable all manual, or reset pose, or something like that. Okay, then there's textures. Pretty straightforward. You have to, I believe they need to be non-rectangular textures. So if we want to use a slab, we have to name the slab, and we have to tell it rectangle 0. So read in a movie, and then tell it which texture. And these are the different mapping, spherical, and then there's different wrapping, mirror. Then you can scale it and rotate it, stuff like that. Alright, and then lastly is this shader behavior. This is a Ogre material that has a shader with parameters that you want to be able to manipulate from Max. So this is something that was created ahead of time. So there's a shader in there called Noisy Shader, and it does this vertex noise warping thing. If we tell it to get our vertex parameters, they come out from the output, and they tell us all the parameters that are modifiable. Fragment parameters, same thing, except it's just an image, so we can't really modify that. So we have these vertex parameters that we can modify, light position. This is depending on the shader that is in the material. This is on a case-by-case basis, but this is this particular case, which is this noisy shader material. Offset does this weird stuff, scale in and scale out. Alright, so yeah, the behaviors, you click this button, they show up here, and then you can send the message B description, and it'll give you all the messages that each behavior responds to. You can get the materials and the meshes that are currently loaded, and now those are in this folder, Max 5 Applications, Ogre, Resources. That's where you put stuff that you want Ogre to find. There's an extra folder in here called Programs, but that's doesn't have to be there. These are all in this resources.config file, which you can edit. So there's these two folders. There's Resources and then Resources Programs. As you can see, it's not recursive, so you have to list every folder that you want to be added to Ogre's search path. Okay, so one thing that people have trouble with sometimes is sort of getting away from the help patch and having multiple meshes going or something like that. So there's a few things that you might want to know about that, so let's just do that. So we're just going to start from scratch. I'm going to create a context and a window. Let's do a P window. And 640 by 480. The name is food. Okay. So I can create, and there's a mesh file that comes with the installation called fish.mesh. So let's just see what that does. Alright. And there he is. And he's huge. So we can scale him down. Okay, so to do another one, we just do another one. Scale him down, we can position him or her. Alright, so there's two. Now the thing is, there's a few things. First, if we turn automatic off for these, they need to be banged. Just like normal. Okay, so now we have to send a bang. So let's do a send the bang. Now the thing is, if we only bang one, they're not going to draw. You have to bang both of them for it to draw. That's just how the thing works. But what you can do is not bang one and tell it enable 0. Or we'll just use a toggle. Just like a normal jitter object has the enable, a normal GL object has the enable attribute. So does Jit-Ogre. So if I turn enable off, then I'm able to see this first one again. And of course, if I want to bang it again and enable it, it'll be there. Okay, now the other thing about this is this clone material. What is it called? Clone mat attribute. That stands for clone material. So by default it's off. So what happens is if I want to change the color or certain material properties, so if I want to make this red, they both are red. Because by default the materials are instanced for each mesh, they're not cloned. But if I turn this on, I guess for both of them maybe, and then reset the color, I can now set one of them to be red. Oh wait, that was going to both. One of them's red. Alright, so that's what clone material does. Now the only other thing is mixing with normal GL objects. So jit.gl grid shape. Foo. Okay. What you want to do if for whatever reason, if automatic is on, it doesn't quite work. What you need to do to mix this stuff is to have automatic off on the GL objects, on the Ogre objects, I'm sorry, and bang them explicitly. And then everything works as it should. Now there's a lot more stuff that goes on with kind of alpha and transparency and blending and depth and all this stuff, but for basic mixing of this stuff, this is all you need to do. I guess that's all. Okay, have fun.